Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon. Shea, it's Monday. It's Mailbag. You know what we do every week. We ask our subscribers for any questions, really. We prefer they stay on team subject, but, sometimes we get some off topic. Sometimes we get some recruiting stuff. We never know where it goes. Regardless, we're here. Brian Kelly talked at 12 o'clock today. It is about 2:30 right now. So we have an update on, if we want to start, real quick with the injuries. Emory Jones, doubtful. Chris Hilton, probable. And Mekhi Wingo, doubtful. So not a big, surprise there. I think Mekhi Wingo is probably more of a load management type stuff at this point, which he deserves. And then, Emory Jones, ankle. Chris Hilton, ankle. But yeah, anything on that before we get started?
Yeah, he just said that Mekhi Wingo's been battling kind of a lower body injury all year. So that's give him the week off against Army. He gets a bye week, then Bama. And Emory Jones the same. He got hurt in that game, but it's an ankle sprain. Give him he didn't rule him out, but give him a few weeks off and then he comes back for Bama. So no surprise here. It sets up well if you've got guys who need to get healthy that you get Army this week, then a bye before you have to go on the road for the final time.
Yeah. And that's what we talked about in the post-game podcast was you have 3 SEC games over the span of 6 weeks, right? So it's Army, bye, Bama, was it Florida, Georgia State, A&M, somewhere in that order. So yeah, it is nice to set up the back half of the schedule with a couple non-conference games, even though it is a little weird to be, to mix them in the SEC schedule. But that's where we're at. And yeah, I think we're good to dive into the mailbag.
All right, let's get it rocking. Capital City Tiger. He said, "How to beat Bourbon Cheerios in." Where was Deshaun Womack? Did not see much run this game. I don't know the snap. I don't have the snap counts in front of me, but I know he had 14 or 15 the week prior against Missouri. Didn't log any pressures. Matty B, I'm in the Womack as a freshman, and when you've got Paris Shan playing well, when you've got Savion Jones as a starter, you're only going to have so many reps out there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to see if I can pull up the stats in hyperspeed here. But I'm not too concerned. Paris Sham played a great game out there, defensive
Great
end.
game.
We saw that. And then at the jack position, I thought they were fine with OV and Braden Swinson. So really wasn't a desperate need to get him on the field, especially against an Auburn team that obviously was uncomfortable passing the ball. So with that being the case, I didn't think that they needed to throw him out there. And maybe, maybe we'll see him against Army and see if he's improved his run defense a little bit.
And then he asked, "What do you think the ceiling for this team is?" And he says, "New York playoffs, New Year's Six. Playoffs seems out of reach unless things go awry and you win out and win the SEC." I think that what I said in the offseason, Matty B, New Year's Six would be my goal. That would be improvement on a year ago. I think that's reachable.
Yes, if they obviously run the table, get to Atlanta and play Georgia, win or lose, I think this is a successful season to where if you go 10-2. Or 10-3, I guess at that point I think that would be a New Year's Six bowl as the SEC runner-up, Georgia in the title game. Yeah, that would be an awesome season. I mean, the playoff is definitely, in my opinion, too far to reach because you have all these teams that have no losses right now, and most of them aren't going to lose multiple games. So, I mean, Georgia, Florida State, Washington, go down the list of Michigan, Ohio State, like it would take a major shakeup for LSU to climb into the top
4. Seafood gumbo or chicken and sausage gumbo? I'll do both. Chicken, I'll go chicken and sausage, but I love seafood gumbo as well.
Yeah,
so, both. Denim Tiger 90. What's the level of involvement expectations for D-line coach Jimmy Lindsey, who's obviously been away from the team, battling some personal health stuff? It seems he's not back with the team, but is working the phones and recruiting. Future plans for coming back this year or next. He is getting back involved as he can, which being on the phone lines, helping out recruiting is what he's doing. I don't know about you, Matty B. I'd say for me, we don't even know anything about his medical condition, what's going on, any timetable. So way too early for me to call what's going to happen in terms of an off season and what a new hire keeping him would look like.
Yeah, I do not have any idea. I don't think anybody has an idea. I think we're waiting to see how the season plays out, and then we'll see what his, health and allows him to do in the months of December, obviously, where that's a big recruiting period. And then January, you get into the offseason from there. January, they won't really need him. And then, well, recruiting wise, we'll see how much the class is done in December, and they'll kind of go from there because spring ball will start up in March. I think that's probably where we'll know definitively what his status is in spring ball and moving forward from there.
Yeah, the offseason. Tiger Bait 7272. This is for you, Matty B. What do you think of Sage Ryan the last couple of weeks? Obviously, he's seen more playing time at LSU right now as a defensive back, playing some corner, natural safety, I think, but very versatile. But Tiger Bait said, to me, he seems to be playing good, much improved. Matty B, is it true? Or he says, is this my bias towards cheering for him to live up to the hype?
I do think he's been improved. I wonder, I had this question earlier, I don't think I've said it, but I wonder why Auburn was attacking Zy Alexander and not Sage Ryan. I thought that was an interesting wrinkle there, where they kept throwing at Zy, with Sage on the other side. I said this before, I hesitate to take too much from the Auburn game as far as the secondary goes. There's really, I do think the second half against Missouri was tangible progress, and you saw that in their zones and their ability to get their head around, like their ability to find the ball better. It was just a lot much improved, and that's probably where I take some, positive takeaways moving forward. But Auburn, Army aren't going to show me much here in terms of Sage Ryan in the secondary. We'll see, but I do think he has made some progress, and he flashed a couple times as the tackler that Brian Kelly hoist him up to be. So I thought that was good.
We move on here. LSU Lawyer 24 says, what's the probability of LSU Bama being the CBS night game over Georgia, Missouri, one being in the 2:30 slot? Each could very well decide who's in the SEC championship game. He's correct. What I'll throw in here, Matty B, as my instant reaction is they would pick the LSU Bama game and the winner of the West any day over Georgia, Missouri, if it meant which slot got higher views. LSU Bama is going to pull a larger audience than Georgia, Missouri. What I will add here is, yes, LSU plays Army. Bama plays Tennessee. Georgia plays Florida. Missouri plays South Carolina at home. So all those games are going to happen before you get to that Bama game. I'd note that there still could be shakeup even before we get there.
Yeah. You maybe you know better than me, but I would assume the 2:30 CBS slot is the slot that they would put, like if they got the pick, they would put the bigger game in. But then again, it's CBS at 2:30 and it's ESPN at 6. So I'm pretty sure they've already.
Unless I think that CBS does the doubleheader now, where they can once a year do a doubleheader, and it's usually been that weekend.
Okay, well then, yeah, then they get to pick and they get to basically choose whichever one gets the higher ratings, and that's where they'll put LSU Bama, I assume.
I would think so too. I think LSU Bama is going to be a night game. Grape Swisher, good morning, Vietnam. Finally great here in Georgia. Feeling great here in Georgia. Finally beanie season. So everyone's getting a little bit of cool weather out there. So he goes, question one, favorite piece of cold weather apparel. I like a puffer jacket.
I got a hoodie. I got a Nike hoodie that I like, the gold one.
Okay. I'm a little bit ahead. I go puffer jacket, and it's easy to pack and can fold down very small. So that's what I rock with. But I like a beanie. Question two, how many first rounders does this offense have? And he said, including sophomore, juniors, seniors. Did he say redshirt sophomores? No. So I guess on the team, he always says including. So maybe
including everybody.
I guess let's just say draft eligible.
Well,
I think that's what he means, because there's some redshirt sophomores. Mason Smith.
I think he's saying everybody but the freshman class.
Okay.
I mean,
that's still tough. A long way to go. I'd say let's stick with, like, I can't sit here and say if Quincy Wiggins will be a first rounder one day, or
it's only offense, right? He said offense, didn't he?
Yeah. I'm just saying there's guys who haven't played that I just don't know. So let's just stick with guys that are playing or have played.
Okay. Malik Neighbors.
Okay.
Then it gets interesting. Will Campbell is probably going to be a first rounder, I would assume. If he plays it, if he takes another step forward next year, then he's an All-American. Like, he's fringe. He's really good this year, All SEC. But like, if he takes another step forward, he's All-American. That's probably first round. So Will Campbell's 2. That's probably where I end the list.
I think Emory Jones is probably viewed as an interior offensive lineman in the NFL. That's a rare first round, maybe
Yeah,
one or
probably
two
day 2.
go. So that'd be tough.
I mean, Jaden's the only other one.
Jaden Daniels. I mean, if they're gonna have a run on 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the first round, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna rule it out.
Yeah. No. That's a good point. If there are 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, which is not abnormal, then yeah, I mean, I could definitely see a late pick for him. I
No
mean,
running backs are getting drafted in the first round these days. They can barely get contracts.
yeah, those are the 3.
Hurd, I guess Hurd.
Yeah, I mean, Hurd, yes, in theory. I don't know. Again, he put like some weird parameters on it. But yes, Hurd in theory, yeah, would be
And
my
we haven't seen Shelton Sampson or
yeah,
Jalen Brown or any of these
or
guys,
Garrett
to
Nussmeier.
know Garrett Nussmeier. There's guys on this back end who are not playing right now who could certainly get into that mix. So we'll see. I don't know. So what do we come up with? Like 2 or 3, maybe?
I like the
4?
question. 3 in theory. If we did Neighbors, Campbell, and Daniels as 3, and then maybe potentially Hurd as a stretch reach for
Brian, and you said it before. You think Brian Thomas will be a top 50 pick, so that's probably second round.
yeah. I mean, with the way he's playing right now, I would say second, third, somewhere in day 2.
Bonus, he said, Tennessee or Bama this weekend. He likes Tennessee. That defense is top 3 in the SEC. Nastiest D line I've seen in a while. A&M's D line has been very good as well. I'm going Bama in this one. This isn't the Tennessee of a year ago. I think Bama wins this.
Yeah, I actually don't love the matchup for Tennessee. I mean, watching them play A&M and A&M having chances to, if Max Johnson could lead a drive there to take a lead or win the game. I think Jalen Milroe, albeit didn't have a good second half against Arkansas, I think he's more comfortable now. I think this Alabama's defense is better than A&M's was, which basically shut down Milton. I think Milton threw for 100 yards. Yeah, I don't love this matchup for Tennessee here, and it's at Alabama.
Bourbon and Cheerios, here he is. Guys, a longtime listener, first-time caller, and he's not the first one to post. He said on September 11th, Adobe Poster hijacked the mailbag pad, and Irrelevant Drivel asked about Logan Diggs getting 20 touches a game, and he didn't put this, but we laughed at him. And we said, you get about 60-something, 70 snaps a game. Nobody at running back's getting 20 of those. And Diggs is getting 18 to 20 right now. So he said, he didn't rub it in our face. He just asked, is getting 18 to 20 now the key to beating Bama? Is balance the key to beating Bama?
Balance is the key to beating Bama. The run game, I think, is the key to beating Alabama. Oh man, I've tried not to think too far ahead of Alabama at Alabama LSU yet, which I probably should, but Alabama's defense is so intimidating that you're gonna have to be balanced. You're gonna have to keep it off kilter like that. I do think Logan Diggs is gonna have to be effective as a running back. 18 to 20 carries is a lot. It wouldn't shock me though at this point.
So he was right. We were wrong. We did not think anybody was getting 18 to 20 carries in this backfield, and Logan Diggs has
I like
very
12.
much earned that, getting about 100
Yeah.
yards a game. He wants to know the story of hiring Matty B. How to get on the radar. What was the interview process like? Well, Matty B, we worked together before at our prior stop, and I didn't hire you, so you just
Oh
got
yeah.
hired. You
Yeah.
graduated from college, and what happened from there?
Graduated from college. COVID hit. Nobody was hiring. Got interviewed for Iowa State head publisher job at 24/7 and Arkansas to join the Arkansas staff at 24/7. Didn't get either one. Went back to North Texas. Grinded that year out. And then yeah, they called and asked if I want to cover LSU with Shea, Billy, and the gang. So yeah, then headed over here.
There it is. Long story short. And then, of course, he's got a Toy Story one. After Tit,
I didn't even. Okay, go ahead.
after the toys came to life to teach Sid a lesson, do you think he turned his life around, became a productive member of society, or is he basically out the deep end, occupying a cell next to the Joker at Arkham Asylum?
There was
Is Sid bad or good now?
Well, wasn't there a theory out there? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. That there was a clip in Toy Story 2 or 3 or something where there was a trash man, doing the trash, and he was wearing the same shirt as Sid. Someone look that up and tell me if I
That'd
was
be a
right.
productive member of society.
Yeah, productive member of society. But that's what I assume that he was doing afterwards. That was the whole fan theory, I'm pretty sure.
There you go. Maddie B's Toy Story answers in. LWT, what are your thoughts on how LSU's using Harold Perkins? Maddie B, you take this, but I think it is working. So what changed?
I do think it's working. Now, the question becomes, are they potentially saving him to maybe be more of a pass rusher in this Alabama game? Because now we start to theorize how much are they saving for Alabama? What are they doing to prepare for Alabama? I think it was, who was it? I thought it was Cody Worsham who tweeted out, Harold Perkins snaps at different positions, and a majority of them were at nickel. But regardless, I'm gonna find it. Here it is.
Yeah, I think it was at nickel.
Yeah, it was alignments 9 on the D line, 10 in the box, and 38 in the slot.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, will that number change as they go against A&M and Alabama? Like the 3 SEC games they have left on the schedule that they need to win, obviously, to get to Atlanta. Will we see Harold Perkins be more of an attacking player? Because he's obviously made plays partly because he's been so unpredictable, which is great, but could you be even more aggressive with him? Where he only had 1 sack, 2 TFLs. Like, it felt like every time he was blitzing, he made a play. Will we see more of that moving forward? I would assume so. I don't think we'll see a complete overhaul in that regard, but I do think they can start using him more and more as a attacker, starting with the Alabama game, which is in 3 weeks. That's really all that matters right now.
Go Tigers 5280 said a couple questions. First, Bama, is it the toughest game remaining on the schedule strictly from a defensive viewpoint, given issues in the secondary? And what makes me pause, and then he actually wrote it, Graham Mertz in Florida's passing attack versus our secondary, he said, gives him a worse feeling than Milroe and Bama. I don't know if it's worse. I will just agree that Graham Mertz is playing very well and putting up numbers at Florida.
Yeah, and they got some receivers.
And they have some receivers. So I would now rank those 2 games ahead of a Max Johnson A&M team.
I agree. If this was Connor Wegman with those receivers, I would still have A&M up there. I do think Max Johnson's a step down. He's a fine backup, but he is a bit of a step down. You look at those 3 though, if they can't get off the field, I mean, we're not talking about top 20, top 25 passing offenses here. Like, at the end of the day, the defense at some point is going to have to get a stop. You're going to have to make a play or two, and secondary is going to have to show up in games against Alabama, Florida, and A&M in order to win out. Like, well, we're hoping, and expecting maybe potentially LSU to do in the back half of the schedule is to win out and be perfect. In order to do that, the secondary is going to have to make plays, like flat out. You're not going to win games if they can't guard, defend Florida's receivers or A&M and Max Johnson.
And tackle.
They're going to have to be better. Yeah. So that's
tackle. That's been when they're not. Don't even get past. Once you get past, can they cover them? It's also this team tackling. When they're not tackling, they're bad on defense.
Exactly. But it is an interesting point because while you're not playing Luther Burden and you're not playing Lagan Kiffin or KJ Jefferson, you're still playing 3 teams that I think are capable.
Oh yeah.
As far as passing offenses go, A&M has receivers. Florida has a mixture of both, and I think Alabama actually, Milroe's I think gotten better as the years go on.
Those are going to be 3 tough outs, regardless of how you slice it. But good question. Coach K7 said, "Thanks for the appreciation post the other day. You guys do a great job." Yes, we do. Love everyone over at the Bengal Tiger who's a subscriber. Anyone can be for $1 for your first month. But we had a fun weekend. Team's hot, recruiting's hot. So we did give a thank you to everyone who's there, and thank you to everyone who's listening. It doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate it. We see the numbers going up. We know our hard work is paying off. But he asked, and thank you for that, Coach K. Which freshmen have surprised you since the start of the season with none or very little participation on offense or defense this year? Not just guys who played special teams. And he said, bonus is Trey Bradford with the team. He said that John Emery wheel play Saturday got me wondering what happened to Trey. You said that right away when they called that wheel play. You said that's the exact same play they ran with Trey Bradford on the first play of the season against Florida State. Bradford isn't not with the team. they've got 8 running backs, and they just play one of them now.
I
So
mean, yeah, this is Noah Cain's not playing either for what it's worth.
yeah,
Like
we got it at
nobody's.
the end. He got it at the end
Yeah,
against
he did. But
had a
I'd say,
crucial first down, as Brian Kelly said. But they're
yeah,
just deep, and they're playing Caleb Jackson.
yeah, playing Caleb Jackson now, and obviously with Logan Diggs getting those 18, 20s carries a game, then you sprinkle in Josh Williams for a couple, you sprinkle in Emery for a couple, and then Caleb Jackson for a couple. That's 4 backs. Like and obviously with one bell cow, you sprinkle in 3 other ones. That's very, very normal at any level of football when you have a Logan Diggs on your team. So yeah, I actually feel a lot better about this running back room now than I did obviously before the season, and I think that's a huge reason why they've had a lot of success.
Okay, we'll pick one on offense and one on defense. I'd want to toss out Kylan Jackson from being an answer here because I think he's been hurt. So I know he got some PT this weekend for the first time, but I don't want to say he can be picked because
So
I think injury played a role in why he hasn't been out
yeah,
there.
is he saying pick
Which
one that hasn't
freshmen
played
have
much?
not played that you thought
Okay,
would play? I'm going to go
okay.
Jalen Brown and Deshaun Womack. I thought Deshaun would have a bigger role, and I thought we'd see more of Jalen Brown.
Well, you say Jalen Brown. What about Kyle Parker? I
Shelton
think.
Sampson.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but Samson's emerged as like that top or that top freshman. I
The
think.
reality is that they have 2 guys they rely on, and when Kyron Lacy has a big game, they have 3. And now we're seeing them sprinkle Aaron Anderson in. So like these freshmen just aren't. They just don't rotate that
Correct.
much. They're just going to play the veterans.
Yeah.
So
I'll go Kyle Parker, and I'll go. You already took Deshaun Womack.
I mean, you can say Womack. I mean, I think that's the right. I mean, I think that's the. You could toss
I mean,
Toviano in there, but it's
Toviano is
not.
the other
It's
one.
not like Ryan Yates is playing a ton over him. They
Yeah,
stick with the same 2 safeties.
yeah, yeah. So I'll go Toviano and Parker.
Okay. I like those answers. Thanks, Coach K. Let's do a quick ad read here. Birddogs. You guys know that we rock with Birddogs. I'm rocking the hat right now. I've got my Birddogs cup right here that I'm
I
drinking out of.
I
And
should
you
have
can
grabbed
get the
my
free.
merch. Oh no,
Let's say what?
I
You
should
got
have
it?
grabbed my stuff. I should have.
No, well, you show up, man. You know, it was Bird Dogs Day. Bird Dogs is your clothing company you need to check out if you're not already on them. And as I said, right now, free hydro flask style water bottle, excuse me, with the promo code Tigers, Tigeers, Tigers. So birddogs.com/Tigers, or just get on there, check out, put in Tigers into the promo code. You're going to get a free hydro flask style water bottle, which is a good deal because that's a good bit of money right there. We've had their shorts. Right now, their pants are big. It's getting a little bit cooler out there. They've got you covered with jackets, pullovers, pants, everything you could imagine. Bird Dogs has for you. It looks great. And look, we've been rocking the shorts and shirts all summer. Maddie B been playing tennis in them, basketball. That cloud knit fabric. It's true that when you've got that khaki, it looks good, but it stretches. It's got a good slim fit to it. They've got the regular cut. That anti-stink sweat fabric is the real deal. As I've told you many times, you can go outside in the middle of what was the hottest summer and be wearing that and still not be sweating, or at least through your shorts. So check out Bird Dogs, birddogs.com/Tigers. Enter the promo code Tigers at checkout if you want to do it that way. And you will get that hydro flask style water bottle for free with your order, no matter what you order. So go show them some support, Bird Dogs, at birddogs.com.
I
Getting
was
back at it, Matty B.
real
What's up?
quick. I was playing tennis. I had the shorts and I had the Yeti, and the guy I was playing with was like, "Oh man, is that Bird Dogs? I love Bird Dogs." He was going on and on and on. He was like, "Man, that's awesome how y'all are sponsored by them."
Did
So
did you tell them Tigers, promo code
I did,
Tigers?
I
Okay.
did, I did. So
I'll show up
shout out
next
to
time you
Corey.
see him with the water bottle.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Corey.
Uh, DC, Texas to LA says, who's the better pass blocker, Diggs or Williams? I think both look pretty good with it. Emery left the game, injury update. He was not listed on the injury report, so I presume he's fine. Do we see touches go to Diggs or more for Jackson? With Emery being fine, I think it's still a rotation. Do you have a preference on a pass blocker? Because it seems like Diggs and Williams, I know they trust to pass block. It looks like Diggs can do it pretty well.
Yeah, they definitely trust Diggs as well. I mean, picking between them is splitting hairs, in my opinion. I think Diggs is a little bit bigger, maybe able to pick up Some linebackers better, defensive end better, maybe Chip better. But Williams technically is obviously very, very, very good. So yeah, I think they're very both along the same lines of high level pass blockers, and that's huge in this offense, obviously. And I've been impressed with Diggs as a receiver as well. So shout out to him.
All-purpose player. Went over 1,000 all-purpose at Notre Dame last year. He's going to go over that easily this year. Tiger King 53 asked, in your best estimation, percentage chance you would place on the 24 class finishing top 5? Oh, that's a recruiting question. I could
Number
dive
6.
more into that. I could dive more into that on the podcast. I don't know, maybe around 50%, but I feel very confident around top 10, which some people doubted at one point.
Yes.
Zud the Hud. I don't know this Army team. I've heard they're running a different offense. Can you tell me anything about them? Matty B, you probably hadn't done film study yet, but you know anything?
I watched Army beat UTSA, and
Okay.
that was a very impressive performance there. It's they're still running the ball. They're not triple option. They are more of a shotgun team. They still run triple option principles. They'll do some of that, like where they'll have an RPO and then they'll have the receiver out in the flat and the quarterback can run or throw it, like that type of triple option. It's a different type of offense, but it's still very much based in running the ball, having some play action stuff, but running option stuff in different ways, which I think's been fairly effective for them. They hung with Boston College a bit, scored on Syracuse, I think, beat UTSA. So yeah,
They are attempting right now 13 passes a game. In prior years, it was 4.5, 5, 6. So they've doubled their passing total, but still sitting at about 14 passes a game. So not a team that's going to try to throw it all over you. Going to try to run it, as Matty B noted. Tiger
correct.
Cycling, thoughts on the D line? Paris Shand had some nice moments against Auburn. We gave him our MVP ball. Paris
Yeah,
Shand did have a very good game against Auburn. Had a bat down, had some nice tackles. I will say from my end, something seems evident that they've changed, and whether that was the addition of Pete Jenkins kind of helping out, whether it's just getting some new guys in there, looking at some different formations, changing things up. Whatever it is, these past couple of weeks have been different. They're getting pressure with 4. They look like the team we thought they would when you have a Mason Smith coming along, a Wingo, a guy like, even if Savion Jones isn't lighting it on fire, Paris Shand can come in and make plays. This is more like the defensive line we thought we'd see.
yeah, and this is the defense line that they need. Obviously against Alabama and A&M and Florida. This is the level they're going to have to be at in order to disrupt those offenses and obviously take pressure off the back end. I mean, Paris Shand, well, I think we should Photoshop like our faces on Brian Kelly and with the game ball and put Paris Shand there and just he was awesome. He was very, very good. And that's what we saw glimpses of, in fall camp and stuff of him being someone that they were very high on. And with maybe questions of, or maybe Savion Jones being good, not great, I think that opens the door for Paris Shand to make some plays. So the depth, I think, to your point, the depth is starting to realize itself, and the defensive line as a whole is coming together.
Mason Cox said, what is our guess? Do you think that LSU ends up in the top 10 at the end of the season? What's our guess on a ranking? I think even if they lose another game, they'd get to a bowl game that's very winnable and they would beat whoever they'd play. If they win out and get to a bowl game, we're playing someone good. But even then, I think you'd finish top 10. So I do think they are pacing towards a top 10 finish. If they lose 2 more regular season games, no.
I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm just thinking. So let's just say in theory, one more loss, whether it's a bowl game or whether it's a regular season game or whatever. I don't know. Let's put them at 3 losses for the year. That probably puts them at like 10 to 12 range, I assume.
I think they'll finish top 10.
If they finish 10-3 on the year, let's just say, which I know is maybe they make a SEC championship game or whatever, but like 10-3, that's like 10 to 12 range, I think.
Snack Guy said, have you already watched the Auburn game a million times, Matty B? If you haven't, regardless, I think you could probably answer it. I thought Hurd played well. What did you think? Lance Hurd comes in for an injured Emory Jones, cold off the bench. What did you think of how he looked?
I thought he physically looked exactly how we hoped he would look. Now, technically, the holding penalty was pretty bad in my opinion. You just kept grabbing him as the run was coming off the edge. That's a simple one you got to let go. And then I think he had one or two false start penalties. So those are kind of maybe jittery. Maybe like Brian Kelly said, it was hard for them to hear on offense, which is something you never hear for the home team. But overall, I thought physically he's there, and we'll see what he looks like with a full week of preparation, knowing he's the starter. I think that actually matters for a guy who, as a freshman, you're like waiting, waiting, waiting. You don't get in, don't get in, don't get in, and then you're thrown in for a full game. This week against Army, you're the you're the starter. Assuming Emory Jones is doubtful, I'm assuming he's not playing, but you get those reps and you come in, and I expect him to play well, especially as a run blocker. I think he's going to be pretty good.
Let's see. After snack guy, DL Walker, 2016. Do you think Diggs' success is a testament to how bad the running back room has been in recent years, or is it O-line getting better? Now, let's give our flowers to Diggs. He's been very good. I think that this is the best blocking we've seen from an O-line in a few years.
Yeah. Is this?
I think that's the answer.
The history. You know history more than I do. I mean, as far as like
you've been here the last 3 years. I mean, this is the best run blocking we've seen from them.
Yeah, since 2020. I mean, yeah, definitely. But I do think Logan Diggs is. I mean, Ty Davis Price. Him and Ty Davis Price, obviously, since Clyde. Like you go Clyde to Ty Davis Price to now Logan Diggs. Like that's the order of which it goes, and we've seen all those backs have success. So I do think it somewhat speaks to, like I said, I had major concerns about the running back room coming into the year. Like they had guys, but they didn't have dudes that could make plays. Diggs is a dude that has consistently broken tackles, made plays, been a versatile back, and I think it's a huge reason. It's a huge boost for this offense. They would still be really good without him, but he just takes it to another level.
J87 carries it on. Is Diggs, if he continues this run, is he NFL bound after this year? My concern here and what Frank Wilson will, because Frank Wilson's had a lot of running backs through the NFL, I think Frank Wilson will tell him, you're more valuable staying and continuing to hone your craft because the value of a running back in the NFL is just going down. So you'd want to have the most film and the best production out there. Your take?
Yeah, I don't know NFL wise. Like I don't know what he runs in the 40, but he's really not that fast. Like that's one of my concerns. Is I don't know how well he'll test, and so that could potentially hinder him in some situations. But I think he's a great college running back. Like for this offense, and we've seen what he does. Now you keep him for another year. You can put 2 years of potentially being 1,000-yard back in the SEC on tape. Like Ty Davis Price gets drafted, Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets drafted. Like you get drafted if you put up, though back-to-back seasons at that level. So I would agree with you in that regard.
He asked if Jaden's the second best quarterback that LSU's ever had. And he mentioned Flynn, Mock win titles. Jamarcus goes number 1 overall. The answer, and I won't go I'll go modern era, so we don't have to. I can cut that debate in half. Jaden Daniels is the second best quarterback LSU's had. The stats show it. The season shows it. His ability to run makes him a completely dynamic player at quarterback. So yes, behind Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback LSU's had.
How much better is he than Jamarcus Russell?
Jamarcus is a hell of an athlete with a cannon, so that's tough to say. He went number 1 overall. Had things not flamed out for him, who knows? But
I'm just curious. That's the only one.
Jamarcus couldn't do what Jaden does with his legs, and now that he has his arm down, like he's the best deep ball passer in the country right now. Like ratings wise, it's tough for me to argue. I could hear it. I could say Jamarcus is in there, but yes, the fact that we're even having this discussion shows how much Daniels has grown. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, I was 9 when Jamarcus got drafted, so I was gonna leave it up to you.
Yes, so I'm putting him up there, top 3, and maybe above Jamarcus. Let's see how the season closes out. OT, Star Wars or Star Trek? I go Star Wars.
I have not seen either one, so go ahead.
People are gonna light you up for this.
Yeah, light me up.
Right past that. Matty B hasn't watched Star Wars. Okay, Delaware Tiger gents certainly can't complain about offensive production, but in the age of the portal, any early read on discontent among talented freshmen who haven't seen the field, maybe wide receivers or tight end. Thanks for the great content. Thank you, Delaware, for listening. I would say that with the success of the offense, knowing that Nussmeier is up next, they've got a rapport with him. I don't think any of these receivers or tight ends are itching to leave. I think they're itching to take the spots of Brian Thomas and Malik and those guys when they leave. So
Yeah,
uh,
I can't. I would imagine again. Everybody, who knows at this point, but I would assume if you are Sheldon Sampson, Kyle Parker, blah blah blah, all these players, and you see Malik and these guys have the years that they're having, and you're like, they're all going to be gone. If you're Shelton Sampson and company, you're like, oh, I'm competing for a starting job next year. I'm competing for major snaps next year. I'm competing to where if I get on the field enough, I could have a 600 plus yard season as a sophomore. And then you go up from there as a junior. Like the path, and I've said this before, like the path for sophomore breakout receivers at LSU is consistent with even with Kayshawn having a good back half of his freshman year, like sophomore year, boom, break. Like the consistency of sophomore receivers at LSU is like there, and so I would be looking at it from that angle. Tight end wise, I think they want to use more tight ends. They just aren't quite ready yet, and so I think next year Mason Taylor will be complemented by a Mac Markway, a Jackson McGowan, and a Kamorian Pimpton. The good thing is they all have different roles, so they will all be able to get on the field at different times.
where are we at here?
Clarence.
Clarence, defense had probably second best game of the year. Matty B, did you see anything different? I don't know if you've dove into film review yet, but he said with your film review, anything different, or are they just, as Brian Kelly said, starting to find the right pieces and everyone's kind of settled into their role?
I guess it was the second best game of the year. I'm trying to think of all the games here. I'm gonna
State
leave up.
being the other.
Yeah, good point. I look at those two games as limited offenses. I will say once again, the defensive front I thought played very well, stopping Auburn's run game. I didn't think Auburn's game plan was great. I can't take a lot from the secondary's performance. I am trying to not get over my head with this defense after one game of playing well against Auburn, who has no pulse in the past game. But from a front perspective, I think, like we talked about, they figured it out. They figured out what they wanted to do as a defensive line and a defensive front, and I think that's huge because now you can start preparing. There's no more indecision. There's no more question marks. They know what they have. They know what they're doing. The assignments are simplified, and now the question is it enough against Alabama, Florida, and A&M? So I can't take any major like, wow, they've taken major steps forward in this regard, in this regard. You can say they tackled better, and I do think that's a positive. But when you're going against Alabama and those guys, it's a little different than going against the guys Auburn has.
MB21, and he said postscript, Shea should have let me cook. I always do. MB21, I should have. He should have let him cook. I'll touch on your recruiting question. You asked about the A&M guys who are in when me and Billy do our podcast. But looking ahead to Bama, do you think Bama will slow our offense down? He asks, how do you think our defense will hold up? That's obviously a faraway question, but I will say this offense right now, slowing down is all you're going to do. You're not going to stop them. So it becomes for me much more about defense holding up, about what you just noted. Is it good enough, or can it improve enough to beat a Bama, to beat a Florida, to beat an A&M? Because no matter, like LSU, if you want to get into chasing points, right, like a high scoring game, LSU will go for it all day long. They'll just keep scoring. So I think it becomes way more about what the defense can do.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, if somebody told me that LSU scored 35 points against Alabama, do I think LSU would win? And I don't think I would. So it's again going to come down to the defense, like you said. It's going to come down to the defense getting just a couple stops, forcing Milroe into an interception or a stretch of bad throws. Like the offense is, in my opinion, going to score 35 plus against everybody left on the schedule. I think it's that simple. Can they get stops?
He asked about Womack. If we hadn't discussed it, we have already. Just
Yeah.
where that's at. But I said, would you want to fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? I'll go with the one horse-sized duck. 100 little bitty horses that are the size of ducks seem
What?
like they could
Oh,
be an annoyance to
they
me.
clarified it in another thread. I'm not going to look for it, but they clarified which duck. as far as size goes, because that matters. I mean, how
Oh, I
big are
didn't
these
think of that.
ducks?
Now I'm getting beaten up by a species I wasn't ready for.
Yeah. So that's because there are some big ducks out there, as we know. Like, I don't want to face 100 ducks that are medium size. Like, that's pretty intimidating to me.
They'll just, yeah, you're just gonna get ganged up on and beat to death. So
Yeah,
I'll go with the one
I go
and
with the one. They posted
and
another
pray
thread.
from there.
I'd have to look for it. Let me see if there's
Um, but yeah, I'm going with the one. Al Smith asked me a recruiting question about Jabari Antoine. I'm going to touch on him on the podcast too because he's now stayed put as the number 2 player in Louisiana for next year with our rankings update. You found something?
Yeah, I found the ducks that they're Muscovy ducks.
Oh,
These
see,
are
I don't.
these are pretty big. I mean, they're not huge, but they're
Well, then you don't want to
medium-sized
fight
ducks.
100 of them.
I'm not
So
fighting 100 of these things. Here, I don't I'll share my screen.
we're
They
going with the
are
one.
here. Let me share my screen real quick for those who care. Here we go. Muscovy ducks. There it is.
No, I'll fight one.
Yeah, found in Brazil.
And I'm going to have to go to Brazil to fight him. Damn.
Okay. All right. Continue. I just
Keep it
there you go.
moving. But he asked Matty B, JD5 in the offense attacking the middle of the field has shades of the 2019 team. How has that opened up downfield shots? And he said also about the O-line. We've talked a little bit about the O-line today. They're doing so well giving Jaden time now. They're opening up runs. This offense is just in sync. But they are attacking the middle of the field now. What is in your mind? How has that changed from a year ago when it comes to open up downfield shots?
Yeah, I think a huge development. Brian Kelly actually talked about it today. I gave a really good answer on how teams were defending Malik and Brian Thomas, and how with them playing more quarters coverage, like they might be giving up more of those intermediate middle of the field type throws that he's gonna have to make. Like, and he did throw the interception over the middle of the field, right? And he said it was a miscommunication. The route, I think the route should have been a little sharper and it looped a little bit. Regardless, like those are the throws he's gonna have to make a little bit more, and he has made. I think a huge um something that we've talked about, but maybe could even talk about more, is the offensive line giving him time to go through his progressions. Like we've seen throw after throw where it's 1, 2, 3, come back to 2, boom, throw, come back to 3, throw. Like the progressions and the offensive line giving him time to make those progressions and throws is basically unstoppable with this offense now, with defenses playing more like quarters or different stuff to maybe try to slow down Neighbors and Thomas on the outside. Like the middle of the field has been open, and that's where we saw Kyron Lacey kind of occupy a lot of that space. So, um, yeah, I do think that's a really interesting development now in how teams are defending them.
Northern Tiger 29 and Blay or BLAE both asked recruiting questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write all these down. I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to put them in my notes. And Billy and I, when we record the recruiting podcast, we'll do a little mini mailbag and I'll throw all these in there and I'll give you guys a shout out and answer them so that the other folks who don't feel like listening to recruiting have to listen to me go on and on about it. But that is coming, obviously, Tuesday. So everybody be ready for that one. T. Edmonds, 4L. While improvement on defense was nice to see, do you credit it more to Auburn being bad offensively, defense improving, or a little of both? T. Edmonds, I love you because this is the kind of question we can answer quickly. Because after the game, Matty B, when we did our podcast, we both looked at each other and said, what? Probably a little of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
And that's okay.
No, it's very reasonable. Like it's not a cop out. Auburn is not a good offensive football team. They have not. They average, what is it, like 100 something yards, passing yards per game. Peyton
Yeah.
Thorne is
Going
obviously,
into this game, I said no receiver had more than 200 yards receiving on the year.
and I was wrong in the regards that I thought maybe Auburn would bust 1 or 2 passes, and they just didn't.
Or
Their best,
runs, and they didn't with Jump
or
Res Hunter.
runs. Yeah. So again, credit to the defense, not giving up any of those. But yeah, Auburn was really rough to watch. I hated watching their offense.
Oh, Hugh Freeze probably does too, an offensive
Yeah.
guru like that.
Yeah.
Kick them while they're down. So good job winning by 30, LSU. Cairo Tiger said it's Army, so move it on. What do you guys just want to see be? What do you guys? It said it's Army, man. So what do you want? what does LSU have to do in order for you guys to come away impressed? Feel free to do offense and defense. For me, it's as simple as this. It's a non-con game against a team that you're way, way, way better than. That means you click on offense, you get up big, you don't let them do really anything to your defense. You go into half comfortable. In the second half, you play your backups, and you get out injury free. Like, that's a very simple formula.
Yeah, you nailed it. Cover the spread of 30. I haven't
There
bet
you
on
go.
it, but I'm just saying if they
LSU
win,
is 7-0 on overs. You can try to get to 8-0 if you really want to get
yeah,
rowdy on Army this weekend.
yeah. So cover the spread. It's at 30. If they win 45-14, I'm happy. I mean, anything in that regard is happy. And because they will have done everything that you said, is get off the field, run defense wise, stay disciplined, just take care of business.
Last couple questions here. Cairo did ask about Caleb Jackson on punt returns since he has been explosive on kicks. He says, look, I know he didn't do it in high school. Is that much harder to catch a punt? And that be the reason if you're a return man? I think it's hard to catch punts because they have issues with it. And I think this year they're, again, more than happy with Greg Clayton just catching it or not doing anything and letting the offense have the football.
Yep. Nope. It is incredible. Much, much, much harder to catch a field a punt than it is to field a kickoff. And I don't really want Caleb Jackson back there returning punts, at least at this moment. Maybe next year if you give him a lot of reps, but they haven't even practiced that. There's no reason to even think about it this year. Think about it over the offseason.
All right, wrapping up here. Nola fan 33. A lot of talk about Auburn last week about they may be the best defense that we faced this year. So are you more impressed that the offense put up 563 and 40 yards and 48 points, or defensively you held Auburn to 293 and 18?
Offense. I'm
Same.
much more impressed with the offense posting the numbers that it did against, like I said, the best defense they've played though so far this year, them in Florida State. Like this was
They made it look so easy.
I wrote about it in the post in my reactions. It's like this was a hurdle for the offense. Let's not minimize how good Auburn's defense was just because LSU tore it up. Like this was an Auburn defense that was top 25 in the country in a ton of advanced stats, regular stats.
Yep.
And
And
go ahead.
remember in the first half too, even if people are sitting here listening and saying, well, it was close at half. Yeah, because they went down there twice and kicked field goals. And they threw a pick, which Brian Kelly said wasn't even Jaden's fault. He said it was supposed to be a different route. And
Yeah.
what do you know? As he said, Jaden's human. Oh, look at that. He threw a pick. He's been on fire other than that, jokingly. And obviously saying one of the best players in the country. But yes, it's offense. And yeah, it was close to half by 13 because they were kicking field goals. Well, they got 4 possessions in the second half. They scored touchdowns on every single one of them. Like they made it look so easy.
Yeah. I mean, almost all but 1 or 2 drives inside the red zone at the very least.
Ooh, that first drive of the game scripted from Denbrock and them was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it's that the offense is playing just at such a ridiculous level.
But shout out to the D.
Yeah.
Still. Last one. So the HUD, which better, mozzarella sticks or barbecue shrimp? Maddie B, people are going to yell if you pick anything but barbecue shrimp living here in South Louisiana. So
I like barbecue shrimp a lot now.
okay.
I mean, like I said, coming from South Texas, it's a lot more Mexican food than seafood. So when I moved here, the first year for me was just embracing all of the different seafood. I love barbecue shrimp. So I like them both, but
I do too. I like them both, but I'm going barbecue shrimp.
Good pick. All right. We're done. Under an hour.
Under an hour. I always promise under an hour. I've never delivered. Under an hour.
Under an hour, and we gave y'all the answer to 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck. So you can't say we have shortchanged you. We've given you everything we had. And yeah, thank y'all for joining us. Leave us a 5-star rating review on the audio side. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. I think we're like 20 away from, we're at 4,981. So 19 away.
Come on, guys.
19
just go
away.
Subscribe to YouTube. It doesn't cost anything. Just
go make another account.
You're listening anyway. Just go subscribe.
Send it to your parents. Send it to anybody you know. 19 subscribers to get us to 5K. But in all seriousness, thank you all for supporting us. Thank you all for liking the videos. Thank you all for watching the videos. And thank you all for subscribing to the Bengal Tiger and sending in your questions every Monday morning. So, yeah, we'll continue to do this. We'll be back. Shea and Billy got a ton, and I do mean a ton of stuff to talk about on the recruiting podcast. So tune into that this week, and we will talk to y'all later.